Hey, so this is a demo of the grid showing navigation using a new technique, a new navigation device, um, and explaining the problems with the previous approaches we've had. So the previously, this let's take this grid back to 0. So previously, we had only a scroll bar, and it used to contain virtually contain all 10 million or 10 billion rows and 10 million columns or whatever. And in that scenario, what we were doing is we were basically creating a compressed scale. So in about 1,000 pixels that we have here, we were representing 400 well 250 million pixels. If you take the row height to be 25 and there's 10 million of them, that's 250 million pixels. The problem with that approach is that then every time we moved the scroll bar even just by 1 pixel, which is extremely hard to do and totally not UX friendly, not user friendly, um, every time we moved it by 1 pixel, it would move about 13,000 rows. Now if we want to get to a specific row and it keeps jumping in increments of 13,000, you can see how hard it is to get to that one specific row. The touchpad would take a long while to scroll through, thousands. It scrolls through tens, very fast, but thousands is a lot. And so, and the scroll bar was limited in resolution to 13,000 rows at 10 million rows, and then when we went to 10 billion rows, it was 13 million rows, and that it was skipping over in increments of 13 million rows, which meant that the majority of the grid was not accessible because the scroll bar has very crude resolution, and if we wanted to get to say row number 15 million, we'd be lucky if we can move the scroll bar 1 pixel so it goes to 13 million, and then we have to use the touchpad to scroll 2 million rows, which would take us months to finish, and so that wasn't really workable. So then what I came up with was to, instead of the virtualization of the entire data set, I had the idea of a rolling window, which is not a unique idea or a novel idea. Just a very common thing to do when you have a huge data set, is to have a rolling window. And so the rolling window is 100,000 rows by 100,000 columns, which means the scroll bar resolution is 130 something instead of 13,000 for 10 million rows. And so every time I move the scroll bar a tiny bit, it's only 130 rows. It's not 13,000 rows, and definitely not 13 million rows in case of 10 billion. It will be 130 rows regardless of whether we have 10 billion or 10 quadrillion rows. So this is a more scalable approach. The rolling window is more scalable approach. The problem with the rolling window is that how do you transition the rolling window from one place to another? And so I came up with this way of we have a scale, a very high resolution scale here. So let's run an experiment. Let's say we want to go to some random row. So let's say we want to go to row 8 million something. So it's 8 or 4. That's the right place. 804 and then 6447. So we're very close. Yeah. There. So that was fast. Now, if I had been doing this with the scroll bar, it's first of all, in a rolling window scenario, it's impossible to go beyond the 100,000 range without this, uh, or having to, you know, get it all the way to the bottom and do it multiple times, which we find to be inconvenient. And so that's the purpose of this thing here. Ultimately, I want to be able to zoom the scale, pan it, get to the exact row, and click it and go there. Uh, so it would be so the navigation would not would not have to switch between this navigation device, then the scroll bar and the touchpad, or sometimes right now I do, for example, because of the fact that we have scale compression, and we have a resolution here of 13,000 pixels. If I wanted to get to pixel number 5,000, to row number 5,000, I would go to the 0 one, and then I would 0 0, and I would move the scroll bar, get it just close enough, and then use the touchpad to get to row number 5,000. So that's three things. I use this navigation device, I use a scroll bar, then I use this. Whereas where we're going, we'll be able to do it all in one place, panning and zooming, clicking, and you get to the right place. So that's the latest work in progress. Oh, one thing. The nice thing about this is that if I go all over the place, from place to place, I can still go back to where my selection was by just pressing any of the arrow keys, and the navigation still works perfectly. There, right. That's all for now.